Hello, everybody. Welcome back, I guess, to the Chase with Jace, and I'm joined by Grant Chachere of it's going to take me probably a list of stuff to go through with Grant and all the stuff he's with, but Crescent City Sports, obviously, he's doing a lot of stuff with Mike Scarborough at TigerBait.com. And then also doing his own thing as well with River Sports Media. So Grant was able to watched the Tigers last week. He was busy covering the basketball tournament, the state basketball tournament for Louisiana high school basketball, and was finally able to see what the Tigers were able to do last week. And of course, the gridiron game, we had to go up to the 318 to Evangel Christian to do a camp this past Saturday. So we weren't there to see what the Tigers were able to do on Saturday, but I know Grant was able to see a lot with the full practice. So Grant, what's going on, my man?
I'm going pretty good. So of course I got, Chris City Sports and done a lot of recruiting stuff with TigerBait.com, Ruger Sports Media. I've not done anything with Ruger Sports Media yet just because I've been so busy, right? And I got to find ways. It's a great time for it. Hope I'm going to get back to it. And of course, high school football starting up again. So eventually me and Jace will be on Speech on Friday nights in the boot again. Which, by the way, I still haven't uploaded the episode, which we did our award show. That just shows you how busy I've been. And then on top of that, I'm also radio host of WBOK, which I've been doing for the last month or two. So I got that. And then also I got another thing lined up that's happening pretty soon as well. I'm gonna announce that in a few days or so whenever I get more details on that, because I gotta do this onboarding meeting. And then once I get done with the onboarding meeting, which will be on Wednesday, then I'll release what's going on with me. But yeah, I got a lot of stuff on my plate, but that's what, especially when you're freelancing, basically, that's what it is. You got to take up as many opportunities as possible. Hopefully you get that big gig. That's kind of how it is, but I love it. There's nothing, of course it's always a struggle, but to cover LSU football, to cover high school sports, to cover the Sage, to cover, all the sports that not only New Orleans but the whole state of Louisiana has to offer. I mean, that's awesome. That's a pretty good job if it's part or full time.
Yeah, Grant. I know you're involved with a lot. You got a lot of stuff on your plate, but you do a great job. So make sure to follow Grant's work. I know he does a lot of stuff for Crescent City Sports and also with Tiger Rag, and that's what we're going to go into. I mean, not TigerBait.com. Excuse me, TigerBait.com. Mike Scarborough. But yeah, Grant. Let's talk about last week, right? Second week. Be honest with you, probably seen as much spring football as I really have. I mean, just a lot of stuff going on with gridiron the last couple of weeks. But last week, just basically overall first glance impressions. So just looking at the first early look at the 2025 Tigers.
Yeah, just kind of what I expected. I knew that the offensive line is still working itself out. I knew that there was, of course, Josh Thompson returned for the I won't say returned, but he had his first project with LSU since coming over from Northwestern. He had to complete some coursework over there before he made the full transition to LSU. And of course, he worked with the second team as he's getting to know his teammates and getting to know the playbook and getting to know his coaches, the whole 9 yards. But one of the things that shocked me, and just because he hasn't played football in a while, was Destin Hill. I mean, Destin Hill was a guy that was one of the top wide receiver prospects in the class of 2021, especially out of the state of Louisiana. He went to Florida State, didn't play his first few years. I think it was personal reasons were the reasons why, but nothing. I don't know anything besides that. Really, nobody really knows what happened there. But he finally got on the playing field in 2023. And then, it looked like he was about to become a starter in 2024. He was balling out during the spring, but then towards ACL before the season. And so he decided to make the transfer. And, a guy like that, you would think maybe will transfer to a school, like maybe a mid-major school, like a really good mid-major school, or like a South Carolina or somebody like that who's pretty good for themselves. But for him to transfer to LSU lets me know that he was really trying to take a shot to prove himself that I could be one of the best receivers in the country, because LSU's wide receiver room is always loaded, right? We had Jack Besh in the wide receiver room at one point, and he transferred to TCU. For him to come over and take a bet on himself and show that he can hang with the big boys has been awesome to see. He's been one of the main playmakers so far throughout the spring. I'm not sure if he's going to be a starter, but he's definitely going to get a lot of reps this year, Jace. He's certainly taken a lot of second team reps, but he's also gotten some reps in the first team. So that's what really shocked me. I mean, I knew Baller Sharp coming in, he was going to be he's going to be a great addition to the offense and kind of complements what Trey Green does. Defensively, one of the things that stood out to me was that all the underclassmen have really been stepping up, and that's something you want to see. We knew that the upperclassmen are going to step up. We knew the transfers coming in we're going to play awesome, right? Shaquem Jackson, he hasn't shocked me the way he's been playing. The ends, we got Jamari Butler, Patrick Payton, and Jack Pyburn. We know those guys were going to ball it. We knew Sydir Mitchell was going to make a difference on the inside. But I knew, and even DJ Pickett. Well, I mean, DJ Pickett's kind of underclassman, but like DJ Pickett, doesn't shock me that he's been balling out, right? There's a reason why he's number one quarterback in the country. But regardless, guys like Michael Turner, for people like Joel Rogers.
Joel Rogers stepped up, yeah.
I mean, he got a lot of first team reps because Tamarcus Cooley was injured on Saturday. He didn't participate in practice, so Joel Rogers got a lot of first team reps. Gabe Relaford has looked awesome. Dominic McKinley and Ahmad Bro have also stepped up as well. Those two guys were stars at the end of the year, and now they're continuing their progress. I know Bo Davis is not there anymore, but you added a guy like Kyle Williams, who was not only a great LSU Tiger and a great NFL coach, but he also proved himself as a head coach. I know that's high school, so it's a different level of playing field in terms of football. But when he was the defense coordinator at Ruston, they were one of the best defenses in the state, and I can make a case they're probably one of the best defenses in the country. I mean, I know this because I cover a lot of high school football, and so does Jace. Jace understands what I'm trying to say. But he's also the guy that developed Ahmad Bro. He's the guy that also developed. Well, I know it wasn't his position coach, but he also helped develop Aiden Andy, right? Ahmad Bro, and also he was Ahmad Bro's position coach. Ahmad Bro was one of the biggest sleepers in the state. He became a starter mid-season for LSU. So his credentials as a player developer are there. I know it's high school, but there's a reason why Ahmad Bro was offered by LSU, was a priority target by LSU, despite being a lower tier 3-star, and then became a starter mid-season. There's a reason. And Kyle Williams had a lot to do with his development. So does Bo Davis. A lot of credit is good to Bo Davis, but what you lose in Bo Davis, you're also going to get in Kyle Williams. He is a player developer. He knows what it takes to play at the highest level. He's done it at both LSU and as a member of the Buffalo Bills. And by the way, he was a 6-time Pro Bowler for the Bills when they were bad. They were bad.
Oh, yeah.
He was one of their better players. Like, that's the only player you can say, yeah, all these players are bad, but this guy's a dog. That was Kyle Williams.
Right. It was towards the end of his career. They started getting really good, but majority of his career, it was some rough times up in Buffalo. And I mean, Brian Kelly did a great job of finding a defensive line coach, especially in this short amount of time. I mean, when Bo Davis announced that he was going to go to the Saints, spring football was like right around the corner, maybe another week or two. But for them to find that defensive line coach in Kyle Williams, I mean, I thought it was a great job by Brian Kelly in the circumstances, considering that's really been the issue. I mean, one of the issues we've seen through the Kelly tenure has been trying to find that consistency at the defensive line coach position. And you thought it was Bo Davis, but, he goes and takes the job of the Saints. Well, Kyle Williams, this has a chance to hit for Brian Kelly.
Yeah, that also. Yeah. Also, I just want to mention this too. Damian Shanklin has also been getting a lot of reps too on the defensive line as well. 2 freshmen coming in from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a guy that LSU was worried of losing because there's a lot of smoke that he might decommit and then
Yep.
commit to Ohio State. But luckily LSU was able to get him. He's getting a lot of second team reps as well. But going off of what you said, Jace. Yeah, but the thing is, it's not even just the beat Brian Kelly era. It also happened in the Orgeron era too. They had a lot of turnover that
Yep.
defensive line as well.
Yep.
I mean, near the end, I mean, from 2019 to 2021, I think they had like 4 defensive line coaches.
Yep.
Because that's where it started. Because I remember, so like during the I want to go back because I think I remember doing the math correctly. I remember when they hired Bo Davis, he was like the 7th defensive line coach they've had in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But it's not even just the Brian Kelly thing. This is also going back to Orgeron. I think they had like 3 or 4 defensive line coaches near the end of the Orgeron
And
era.
Pete Jenkins worked with both O and Coach Kelly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Now, although Pete Jenkins was had a full-time role when Orgeron was there,
right?
But you get my point. Like it's just constant. It's just constant turnover. And luckily now LSU has the talent to kind of overcome that on the defensive line. But it's not an ideal situation. I mean, luckily you have a defensive tackles and a defensive ends coach. So I mean that's a good thing about LSU. And of course, Kevin Peoples is arguably one of the top edge rusher coaches in the country. You saw that last year, and look, you saw what he did with Savion Jones. Really, Savion Jones had the resurgence, and then Braden Swinson was always one of the better. I would say it was always one of the better pass rushers in LSU. He never was utilized correctly under what's his I forget his name now. I think for all our LSU fans, I know they want to forget his name too.
Matt House. That guy.
Yeah. The fact that I forgot his name is absolutely asinine because that is the name that will forever be in LSU fans' memory. And so I think if you're an LSU fan listening to this, I think they're kind of glad that I forgot his name. But yeah, like he was never utilized correctly under Matt House. But the same goes for a lot of different players under Matt House. But I think he was really one of the biggest victims. And you really got to see that because he was able to get on the field more, and you saw the impact he had coming off the edge. So I mean, I think the downside of losing Bo Davis and also having another another year of turnover at the defensive line coaching position is that at least you have the talent to kind of overcome that, and you also plug in Kyle Williams, who's also kind of has the kind of same coaching style as Bo Davis. I know Kyle Williams may be a little bit younger than Bo Davis, but Kyle Williams was a dog. Like, that's going to translate to LSU quite well. He played there. He wants to win there. He's an LSU Tiger through and through. So I expect the defensive line to continue its dominance. The defensive line has probably arguably been the best position group on the field. That goes for both offense and defense. Just look at the depth. I mean, it's insane. And that's something I asked Brian Kelly about that the other day. It's just not only would they have depth, but they made sure it was intentional that they added as much size as possible. So I do much for 6'6", 355 pounds. He's going to shed some weight, but that's what he was listed as before he got here to LSU.
Oh yeah, and you just know like these are the type of guys you saw from the really great John Chaves defenses, right? I mean, these are the guys that just look the part, and they're getting more and more of those guys. The defense is starting as a whole. The secondary, like guys like DJ Pickett coming in. I mean, you got these transfer Monster DeLong definitely looks the part. You're getting these guys that, okay, this is what a defender should look like at LSU. So you're really starting to see that come into fruition a little bit. Just looking at the whole defense, the defensive front looks really strong. You just talked about what Kevin Peoples did with the edges last year, and you got arguably even more talent than you did last year as you're starting edges. So a lot to be really excited about, Grant. Really, the secondary has definitely been a big talk as well. And just focusing on the secondary, right? DJ Pickett, I mean, he's a guy everybody wants to see because of how highly regarded he was coming out of high school. What were you able to see from, I guess, starting with the corners first? Because I think we're starting to get back to a pretty good position where you want to be. You got Corey Raymond working with those guys at cornerback as well with DJ Pickett. We know about Ashton Stamps and his expectancy to really step up in that role, right, as a starting corner. And you look at down the line as well. They got some really good backups too. So PJ Woodland being another guy. So it seems like you're starting to really build some depth there at corner.
Yeah. And, one of those weaker points of, really the last few seasons, maybe outside of last year, was the cornerback spot. There really hasn't been much talent at the cornerback spot. And I think one of the biggest mistakes of the Brian Kelly era started at the very beginning when he decided not to retain Greg McMahon as a special teams coordinator. We saw also all that unfolded that season. Where you had all guys, muff punts, muff kickoffs, missed field goals, blocked field goals. You had Greg Clayton was put a punt return only to catch the ball, call fair catch, and the fans were clapping. So that was probably the biggest mistake of the break in terms of coaching decisions. That was the biggest mistake. But really, it's really just across the board. Really, I mean, all of the of the original defensive staff, they're all gone. Every single person's gone.
Yeah.
The people that decided to let go were Greg McMahon. That was the big one. I think, in my opinion, that was probably the most important one. But then they also let go of Blake Baker, who was the linebackers coach at the time.
Yeah.
Kind of ironic how that turns around. It's kind of ironic what happened later.
And now he's the DC.
Yeah, exactly. and I think this is also a big one. I think Greg McMahon and Corey Raymond are 1A, 1B. Corey Raymond, you missed out on a lot of talent on the quarterback position because you let go of Corey Raymond. You lost a lot of guys. You got to think about this. What's his name? The kid from Westgate, Derek White.
Yep.
His name is.
You had Antoine.
Antoine.
Okay. You had the one that went to Texas. Yeah.
Derek. Yeah. I think his name was. I think it was Derek White. I think that's his name. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But
Derek Lewis.
Derek. I think it's Derek something. Yeah, Derek Williams or something. But
Derek Williams.
Derek Williams. Yeah. So you don't lose him if Corey's still there. I highly doubt you lose him to Texas. There's the cornerback from Woodlawn, Jordan Matthews. You don't lose
Matthews. Yep.
I think you keep.
Yep.
There's you lost a lot of not only in-state guys because you didn't keep Corey Raymond, but you also lost a lot of the top quarterbacks around the country because you didn't. Look what happened this year. You were able to get DJ Pickett. Why? Corey Raymond. I know Corey has probably got a lot of criticism down the stretch because, of course, the quarterbacks LSU did not. They underperformed for the most part. Although they're still pretty good, they did underperform. Yeah. They did too. Right. And then also in Florida, the quarterbacks also underperform. However, I think that has a lot more to do with defensive play calling than it does Corey Raymond. But you needed Corey's presence at LSU to not only regain a foothold on the bringing in talent, but also developing that talent. And you're seeing it with DJ Pickett, who's looked awesome. PJ Woodland. Yeah. You see it with Ashton Stamps, Jakeem Jackson, who was the guy that Corey Raymond recruited to Florida. So it's also somebody that he's used to coaching, and Jakeem wants to be coached by Corey Raymond. And Michael Turner. Michael Turner's made a huge step.
Yeah, made a really nice play. I think it was against Barry and Brown, 1-on-1. A deep
shot. So. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he's been looked solid. All those guys most of the guys I just mentioned are underclassmen.
Yeah.
So and I think Zay Alexander also had another great year. Although
he did.
Although I would say Corey Raymond only coached him for 1 year, which was last year. He also Zay Alexander was able to keep the momentum building up from the year before. And also Zay Alexander might be drafted. So that's another person to add to. I developed this guy. Look where he was at Southeastern.
Yeah, he was.
Although he already had a hell of a career at Southeastern, he was All-American at Southeastern.
Yeah.
He came to LSU. Look who I coached up.
Yeah.
Along with Southeastern and Corey Raymond both deserve credit. I think that's in my opinion. I don't think it's just solely going Corey Raymond. It also should go a lot on Southeastern coach staff. Shout out to Coach Frank Seffel, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I've known my whole entire life that he's done a phenomenal job at Southeastern. Bauer Sharp.
Yep.
I mean, he's like
as a quarterback at Southeastern.
The thing with Southeastern, like I say this about Southeastern, though, they have a tendency to not only recruit under recruited guys like Zay Alexander and Bauer Sharp, develop them, and if they get too good, they move on. and Frank knows that. But guess what? People want to come to Southeastern because they know they're going to coach well and they're going to win.
Yeah.
So sorry, even the older upperclassmen. It's not even just it's not even outgoing. It's also incoming as well in terms of the transfer portal. So, but I want to give a shout out to Coach Seffel. But yeah, but Jace, the LSU. I know it's the win at Southeastern. I know you appreciate that as a Southeastern alum. Member of the Southeastern Mafia, as I like to call them, with you, Taylor, and Lucas, and there's lots. Richie Mills, a lot of you guys from Southeastern. But going back to LSU's defensive backfield, it's awesome. They're looking the part. The only concern I have is the safety spot. Although Jamarcus School looks good, and I like how what's his name? DeMarcus Spears.
You have you have Deshaun Spears.
Deshaun Spears. My bad. I don't know. I messed that up. But Deshaun Spears has been awesome. He's looked the part. And then also Joe Rogers, seeing him develop. So you add and then of course you have Toviano. You have depth at the spot, but it's still your weak link. I'm really interested to see how that position develops, not only as we finish out the spring, but also go in the fall, because that was a major issue with LSU defense last year. It wasn't the D-line. It wasn't linebackers. It wasn't the corners. It was the safety spot, because you didn't have any safeties who could not only cover, but were also physical at the point of contact.
Yeah. That was a problem. You saw that a lot of times in the quarterback run game too. You saw it with just bad angles, and you saw that a whole lot last year. And how does that even look? I mean, you lose guys like Sage Ryan, you lose guys like Major Burns, and right now Jordan Gilbert, he's recovering right now, not involved with spring football, but he'll be back once we get to the fall. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. But the defensive front is looking really strong for sure. On the offense, let's talk a little bit on the offense as well, Grant. Garrett Nussmeier, obviously a lot of expectations are on him. Unfair, fair, what do you call it? Still, there's a lot of expectations on him because of what the previous Heisman Trophy quarterbacks did at LSU in their second year.
And they're fair too. They're fair too, by the way. They're very fair.
Yeah, for sure. And and statistically had a much better year than those quarterbacks did in their first year. So, really big. So, from what you were able to see last week for Garrett, what do you think about those expectations, and you think you can be able to meet those expectations this year?
I think you can definitely meet those expectations. It's the second year of a starter, as history kind of tells you. Starters tend to have a better year the second year. I mean, Zach Mettenberger had a better second season. I mean, that's going way back. That's probably the only good quarterback of the let's call it there, outside of of course having Jamarcus Russell, Matt Flynn. But there was
towards the end
in the middle between Jordan Jefferson and Danny Adley, we had Zach Mettenberger. If you look at Zach Mettenberger's stats at LSU, of course, he had a pretty good year his first year, right? I mean, that was a different form of football then. Of course, SEC was still ground and pound.
Dominant, run ground pound.
Right. And he completed 58% of his passes for 2,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Go the next year. Completed 65% of his passes for over 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. We also have with Joe Burrow this first year. Joe Burrow's first year. Look, I know there's gonna be a lot. There's not revisionist history. He wasn't the best quarterback at this. Was he clutch? Yes. Was he a great leader? Yes. I mean, you could tell right away he had the alpha dog mentality. But there was 4 or 5 games that year where he completed 50% of his passes or less.
Yeah.
The whole month of October, he did not throw a single touchdown. The next year, we all saw what happened, right? Jane Daniels, same thing. Jane Daniels. The amount of times people wanted Jane Daniels to get benched was high. I can't tell you how many times people were like, we should bench Jane for Nussmeier. We should bench Jane. We want Miles Brennan back. We were like this, and that. He can't throw the ball deep.
He didn't even throw for 100 yards against Auburn. Like early in that year.
Arkansas didn't throw for 100 yards either. He was. I mean, Arkansas. I know. I think it was sick. To be fair, I think it was sick, but still, like he didn't play great against Arkansas. Harold Perkins won in that game against Arkansas. Harold Perkins was LSU's best offensive player in that game, and he played on defense. So I mean, he didn't have a great first year, and even going to the next year. Although the first 2 games he was playing phenomenal, people were like, "Oh, we should bench Jaden Daniels." And then I think, and then we saw also what he did against Ole Miss. We're like, "All right, we gotta apologize to Jaden Daniels." Now I wasn't that person, but there's a lot of LSU fans out there, even some media members. I'm not gonna say names that said that we should bench Jaden Daniels, even though Jaden Daniels is playing phenomenal, and his stats show that. If you look at his first 3 games of that season, the Seisman campaign, till the year before. And, of course, the Ole Miss game changed the perception because that dude was getting licked. He threw for over 300 yards. I think he also ran for over 100 and really was the reason why LSU was even in the game.
Right.
And then that's when the
Missouri game, too, was like, okay. Yeah.
Missouri game, too. That was the game after that, too.
Yep.
So, with all that happening, like it was, of course, and then Jaden Daniels won the Heisman that because Nussmeier kind of the same thing. Now, the difference between Garrett Nussmeier and Jane Daniels and Joe Burrow's first year is that Garrett Nussmeier actually had a pretty good year. The only thing was he had a 3-4 game, really 4 or 5 game stretch where he did not play great. Still threw for some yards, but a lot of those games were maybe more empty yards. You can tell like this guy had talent, but you can tell that it was his first year starting quarterback. Now it's his second year. He's more experienced. The expectations are going to be there because the last 2 quarterbacks perform. Well, 2 out of 3 quarterbacks perform. Won a Heisman Trophy in their second year. And with the talent, this is LSU's most talented team. This is the most talented team of the Brian Kelly era. There's going to be expectations. There's going to be expectations on Garrett Nussmeier the same way there's going to be expectations for every single player on that team and the coaching staff. And also the AD, Scott Woodward, because he paid $100 million for Brian Kelly. And this is the year, like, if LSU doesn't make the playoff, that's a stain. That's going to be a stain on Brian Kelly's legacy. I know probably you might get into that later, but not so much Garrett Nussmeier. I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to have a great year. But, he's the one thing he does have to prove on is, maybe it's decision making. He's a T-move version of Brett Favre.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying is like in terms of like throwing a cross body and making throws.
He's not going to give up on the play. He's not going to give up on the play.
No.
Yeah.
No. Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, and that's hurt him sometimes. That helps. That's helped him sometimes. But yeah, I mean that's definitely going to be a quality as well.
The A&M game was the A&M game. If you look at the A&M game, that's the perfect example of what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Just make it just like wow.
Yep. Yep. You noticed that for sure. And another thing that that hurt. Well, I guess what was really impressive about Garrett Nussmeier that year is there wasn't really much of a run game besides Kean Durham, besides him, and a lot of it was on his shoulders, and he still put up some pretty good numbers. That kind of goes into the running game. A lot big time news was last week, and that was John Emery having again, I guess like what you'd say, what was the Ryan Reynolds movie when he's in college? Van Wilder. John Emery is the Van Wilder now of college football, but going to his 7th year. But the writing's on the wall with this running back room. I mean, LSU's already got two highly recruited running backs from inside the state of Louisiana. You return Cam Durham, who had a freshman All-American campaign. Caleb Jackson is in this room. It's just too many mouths to feed right there. So Brian Kelly, I mean, you were there at the press conference. Brian Kelly was talking about John Emery, how they're going to support him moving forward. But it looks like it's not going to be at LSU.
Yeah, and and it's probably the best thing for John, right? I mean, he needs to go somewhere else. He's had 6 years at LSU. I think he broke the 1,000-yard mark. I think in his 4th year playing college football, which LSU try to make a big deal of it, but then you look at it like he now just got over 1,000 yards. But and a lot of it's just bad luck for John Emery, of course. His first 2 years, he looked okay. I mean, he looked good, but of course, that was COVID year, and also like I think before he was maybe about to break out, he couldn't play the whole year because he was academically ineligible, which was on him. For the most part, I know maybe some things, obviously he did some things where he tried to get eligible, but you wouldn't be in that situation if you took care of business at the beginning of your career. And then 22, he had a lot. He had the great moments, but he also had some moments where like, can we put the other? And it's not disrespect to John Emery. It's just he was really inconsistent. I mean, Josh Williams, the guy who was a walk-on running back for LSU, was a much better player than he was. Tyrion Davis-Price, the guy that wasn't nearly as highly recruited as John Emery. John Emery was the number one running back in the country that year. TDP was like a borderline 3-star, 4-star running back out of Southern Lab, which is a smaller 1A school. And Tyrion Davis-Price had a better career than John Emery did. Matter of fact, Tyrion Davis-Price ran for just as much yardage in his last year at LSU in 2021 than John Emery did, I think, his whole entire career at LSU. And I think that's part of the reason why John Emery, wants to return, because, for a lot of these players, why they play 6-7 years sometimes is because they want to build on their legacy. It's kind of a pride thing. I'm wondering how much of that, and I'm not saying that he's thinking that's what's going on, but when you're, and it's good for every athlete, when you're seen as the best at this and you never pan out, that wanes on you. And I think he wants to rewrite the wrongs of his career, and some of it is just being unlucky, and some of it was in his control, like the academic violation stuff. But I think he's gonna move. I think it's the best thing for him to move on. LSU's running back, his room is stacked. Cam Durham's coming back. He had a phenomenal year as a true freshman, led the team in rushing. Then you also got to think about Caleb Jackson is returning. Harlan Berry's, he's already enrolled. He's already participated in spring practice. He was doing some speed formation stuff because they have this little speed formation where they have two running backs and sometimes they fly them out. You'll see when you finally decide to. Well, when obviously gridiron football doesn't, obviously you guys have a lot of camps, so that's why you haven't been there. But they've done a lot of split back stuff, and they also have a tight end sometimes lined up as a wing, and sometimes they have the right back trying to motion. It's pretty cool. Like they also put in Xavier Thomas and Aaron Anderson, so you're starting to see Joe Sloan start to work with that as well. But yeah, also JT Lindsay will become incoming during the summer. We don't know the situation with Trey Holly. So I just named 5 running backs right there.
Right.
I mean,
don't forget to walk on Reed Chauvin coming in.
Reed Chauvin. Yeah.
Reed Chauvin from Episcopal. But
that's true. But I'm just going to say one last thing. So I think it's best for him to move on. And I think, if you're in FCS school in Louisiana, whether it's Southern, Grambling, Nichols, Southeastern, Northwestern, you name it, you need to call his agent, because I think he'll be a great addition to your program. He's a great young man. I know I said some things that so I know I put some criticism about him, but it wasn't like I hate the kid or anything. It was just like that's just my true opinion about him. And I think he's a great kid. I think he'd be a great addition to your program. He'll help you win a lot of games. And hopefully he can stay healthy this time around.
Right.
And hopefully, if he does get his 7th year, hopefully he can stay healthy this time and hopefully get another degree. I'd say this all the time. If you're in college for 5-6 years, you still play college football in 5-6 years, get another degree. Trust me, that helps you along the way.
Yeah.
Having a master's degree. How many people do you know have a master's degree?
That's true.
In your family alone. Take advantage of it. That's what Josh Williams did. Take advantage of that, man. You get it for free.
Oh, yeah, true. That's well said, Grant. And we've seen. I mean, it's been tough breaks. Like you talked about the grade issues early on in his career, but really most of it, the second half of his career, was injuries. Like you've seen moments like, and that's the thing with Emory. You've seen those moments. Like, okay, that's why it's a Bob. Alabama play. The Alabama play was one. The Auburn touchdown.
Yeah.
Like you've seen moments where he showed it. Actually, the play where he got hurt against Florida, that was a highlight. He juked one guy, juked him out of his shoes, and made one cut, and that's when the knee gave out.
USC. He was the best running back that night.
He was, he was the leading rusher of that. He was one of the bright spots from that game. Before I think that next week in practice was when the knee gave out. But you were there that fall, and he had the brace, and you just kind of had to wince every time he ran. You kind of knew he was dealing with that. You're just kind of holding your breath during fall camp every time John Emory did a rep. But it's just unfortunate, and that's the thing about John Emory. I mean, there were flashes of potential there, but hopefully he has a fully healthy 7th year, and he gets to finally show what he was able to what he showed at Chachere when it was such a highly recruited running back. Speaking of staying healthy, right? A great transition there. Really, the potential of this offense is a different receiver group, right? I mean, you have a lot of bigger, taller possession receivers, right? Whether it was CJ, being a guy, a bigger, taller Kyron Lacey, and these bigger possession receivers. It seems like this year is different. You have Trey'Dez Green. Obviously, he's a mismatch problem at 6'7". As a man child he is, right? And you have other guys that are big. Destin Hill, he's kind of a bigger target as well. The Oklahoma transfer, he's more of a bigger receiver, but you have a lot of smaller, speedy guys in this offense at receiver, whether it's Aaron Anderson, Barron Brown, Xavier Thomas. So how do you think LSU is going to be able to utilize these guys, knowing it's a little bit of a different type of receiver group this year than probably last year?
Really, well, I mean, it's different because it's better. Last year, you didn't really have those difference makers, maybe outside of Aaron Anderson and Kyron Lacey. But even I would say Aaron Anderson was probably a bigger difference maker than Kyron Lacey was last year. And that's, Kyron Lacey was supposed to be your guy. He had his moments, but he never really became that guy. Right. And Aaron Anderson showed that. But Aaron Anderson really is more of a number 2 receiver because he's often using the slot. He's a smaller receiver. So you need guys who can kind of complement that with both size, speed, and physicality, and obviously having a great catch radius, right? Trey'Dez Green, tall guy. He's gonna be main receiving tight end, and of course Bauer Sharp's gonna get some targets as well. But those two, you got those 2 tight ends, but then also I consider them part of the receiving group. But then also you got Barron Brown. You have Aaron Anderson coming back. Those are 2 speedsters right there. Chris Hilton.
Healthy is Chris Hilton.
If you can stay healthy, if Chris Hilton stays healthy, he's probably one of the better deep threats you have. And really, that's something LSU missed throughout the season, was having a true deep threat. And Chris Hilton can't be that guy. But then also, you can't forget about Nick Anderson. Nick Anderson is still going through some rehab stuff. He was one of the better receivers at Oklahoma, and it was about to have a breakout. He was supposed to have his breakout year last year, but he tore his ACL right before the season. That's why he still hasn't participated full time with the Tigers. But somebody's definitely going to be in the mix. Destin Hill coming in,
Mm-hmm.
big receiver, 6'1", 6'2", and you've seen him just flashes. He'll definitely be in the mix, and also don't forget about Kyle Walker. I mean, Kyle
Yeah.
Walker,
Kyle Parker.
Kyle Parker.
Parker.
Kyle
Yep. Yep.
Parker was supposed to be another deep threat, kind of similar in similar sense uh, to Chris Hilton, but he also had a season-ending injury, which also I think also having Chris Hilton and Kyle
Yeah.
Parker, those two guys getting hurt, I mean, completely changed the pass game as a whole because Kyron Lacey was never a true deep threat. And then also, I mean, and then CJ Daniels was never, he was more of a possession receiver,
Receiver.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't really a deep threat. I mean, you never really had a true deep threat last year. And Aaron Anderson was probably the best slot, it's arguably the best slot guy in the country, but he's not a guy you would consider a deep threat. I understand. So now you have not only have deep threat guys, we also have bigger receivers, which is something you need in the pass game if you want to be successful, especially when you're in the SEC, which is by far the most physically demanding conference, not just because of the guys you have in the conference, because obviously the SEC is bigger, but then also week in and week out.
Mm-hmm. Right, and yeah, I mean, it's a good mix. You got some length, right? When we talk about Destin and Trey Dez and Nick Anderson, you got some speed and quickness with Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, Barry Brown, Xavier Thomas. So this has potential to be another explosive offense for LSU. And you saw when Hilton got back in the lineup, and it took a couple games to get that timing right. But that Oakland, Oklahoma, the Baylor game, you saw, okay, this passing game get at full strength when you're able to get him back in rhythm and 100% healthy as well. One more position group to talk about before we kind of discuss just the spring as a whole in the show on that is the offensive line. Like we've seen the first team unit. We've seen a lot of that, with spring football so far. I mean, and that's been a big question mark because of so many guys that you're going to have to replace from last year. But you've seen, I mean, Tyree Adams, you've seen Paul Mubenga, DJ Chester at center, Cohen Eccles. He's getting, that was kind of a surprise, getting starting reps at guard, and Weston Davis at tackle. Josh Thompson, and I think Saturday was actually, I think, his first practice with the team coming back, or at least coming in as a transfer from Northwestern. So offensive line, I mean, it's going to be a lot of eyes are on this group because of what you have to replace. But that's going to be probably the difference of how good this offense is going to be. We know about Garrett Nussmeier, we know about the skill guys, but how this really new group, this offensive line gels, is going to determine how good this offense is going to be.
Right. Of course, those five guys you just mentioned were the starters in the Texas Bowl against Baylor. So you have some continuity there. I mean, although some of those guys didn't play the whole season, like DJ Chester's the only returning star from the year before. We know that Paul Mabega got a lot of stars. I got a few stars near the end last season for LSU. And Tyree Adams is somebody that has been trusted by both Brian Kelly and offensive line coach Brad Davis to step in there whenever Emory or Will was injured. They couldn't go in, right? They had to take a play off, or they were out for that game. They stuck in Tyree Adams. Tyree Adams could play both the left and the right tackle spots. Josh Thompson may also be very interesting as we get later and later in spring practice. Of course, Josh Thompson's coming in. Josh Thompson has a lot of experience. I know that is somebody that the coach that definitely wants to be a starter at right tackle. There's a reason why he was brought in, to be a starter. So I know they definitely want him to be a starter, unless the guy he's competing with is just playing much, much better than Josh Thompson, and they have to start the other guy. But the most interesting battle on the offensive line will be at center. And the reason why I say that is because DJ Chester, was a starter last year, but there were times where he struggled last year.
Mm-hmm.
Although he's looked great during the spring, you brought in a guy like Braylon Moore. Braylon Moore was brought in to either compete for the job or start. There are a lot. DJ Chester started center for the most part, but on Saturday, Braylon Moore got a lot of the first team reps in the 11-11 sessions. So there is a battle brewing there. I want to see how they handle that. Will they keep G.J. Chester and bench Braylon Moore, or even put him at guard? Or say
Yeah.
if Braylon Moore is a starter, what do you do with
Put
DJ
Chester
Chester?
guard.
Do you just move him over the guard, which is
Yeah.
probably his more natural position, or do you leave him on the bench for somebody like a Cohen Eccles? I mean, there are going to be position battles at every single spot. Nobody's safe because it's a new year. You don't have Garrett Dellinger anymore, who's a 4-year starter. You don't have Will Campbell and Emory Jones. Will Campbell is going to be the first offensive lineman taken in this year's draft. Emory Jones will be a borderline first round, second round pick. And
Miles
of course,
Frazier.
Miles Frazier, you can't forget about Miles Frazier, who's an also underrated offensive lineman too. The guy was a 3-year starter. Actually, technically, he's a 4-year starter because he also started at FIU too before he came over to LSU.
Yeah, there's going to be some questions, and the Braylon Moore thing is going to be really interesting because he was a 2-year star at Virginia Tech. I mean, you don't bring him over just to sit the bench. So him potentially being the center and moving Chester at guard, it's going to be a lot of musical chairs when we talk about what this offensive line is going. The best version is going to look like. Grant, any final thoughts? Basically from Saturday, anything that was of note? I know we weren't there. But is there anything as a note that you see on Saturday, or just what we got left, which is not too much of spring football that you want to see before spring football ends?
Yeah, of course. First of all, I also mentioned some other guys too. Teron Francis looked great in the Saturday spots as well. He actually probably made the best play of the day, where he caught a slant in the middle of the field and made a couple guys miss before racing for the end zone, a long touchdown pass. So he's maybe a guy who could also see some reps too. Teron Francis, also known as the man child. You just saw why he's called the man child on that play, but he's going to be someone maybe you should watch it for as we get later and later in the spring, even during the fall. So it'll be interesting. I don't know how much you can play this year, but that's a name you might want to look out for.
Got 3 wide receivers now on the roster.
Yeah, exactly. And then also Austin Osbury. Of course, Bruce Osbury's son. I mean, I know a lot of people want to talk about his brother, but Austin's been playing hard too, and he's gotten a lot of second and first team reps as well at safety, and that's another guy that did the safety stuff as well. So, but yeah, that's just about it, Jace. I would really like to see what they implement in the run game because that was a big issue last year. I also just want to see the continuation of the development of the underclassmen on the defense, specifically safety, because last year we said defensive line was the soft spot for the defense, just because not only because of the lack of depth, but who of the underclassmen were going to step up. We didn't really get to see that until the fall camp, and then also we're really the fall camp, but then more so as the season went on. And then the defensive line was actually one of the better units on the field for LSU this time around. Will that be the safe? Can that be the safeties? Can the safeties improve from year 1 to year 2 under Jake Olson? And also, can the underclassmen step up at that spot, let alone the other positions? But I like the progress right now of LSU's defense. I think they're going to be much, much better this year in year 2 under defense coordinator Blake Baker. But we also want to see the offense progress as well. You need that run game to get going, because if you don't have a run game in the SEC, you're not going to win many games. You're just not.
Oh yeah. That's going to be really important.
I'm gonna say this: the games you're supposed to win. If you don't win, well, not even the win, because the big games. We're talking about the Clemsons. I mean, even though they're not in the SEC, the Alabamas, Florida's going to be a much better team this year. South Carolina is going to be a good team this year. I mean, think about all the teams you're going to play this year. If you want to win those games, you have to have a run game. You want to win the SEC, you have to have a run game. If you want to win the national championship, you have to have a run game. Everyone talks about Joe Burrow and those receivers joining 19, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran for 1,500 yards.
Yep, they could run the ball. Yep, and Joe would run and keep defenses honest to extend plays. So
TDP had some moments too that year too as a freshman.
He did that touchdown run against Florida, for sure that year. So yeah, you're gonna have to. You don't have to run for two. You don't have to have a 4 net year. You don't have to run for 2,000 yards or whatever. But
there's a reason why he ran for 2,000 yards too, by the way, because they had no passing game.
No, it felt like he did. He was, I think he was like 100 or 200 yards away from it. But yeah, I mean, it felt like he did. But you just have to keep defenses honest enough running the football. Just be effective at it. So let's see if LSU can do that this year. Grant, Anything you want to promote or plug for Crescent City Sports or anything coming up for you? Because I know you get like you talked about a lot, and you're involved with a whole lot going on. So anything you want to plug in before we wrap up?
Yeah, first of all, foremost, Jace, thanks for having me on. It's been a little while because you brought on
Yeah.
Taylor, you brought on Matt Moscona, brought on Glenn, you brought on Zach Nagy. I mean, you brought on everybody but me, and so I had to wait patiently, but I'm okay with it. At least I know where I'm at in the total poll. At least I know now. Thanks a lot, Steve. But in all seriousness, now you can follow me on Twitter at Chachere Grant for all the latest updates on LSU football, also LSU sports in general, and high school sports. Is a lot of my coverage high school sports, and it's kind of like Jace. I do basically the same thing that Jace does: LSU football, but also maybe more LSU sports, and then of course high school football, high school basketball,
Mhm.
high school baseball. That's been I had just got into high school baseball, so we're trying
Yeah.
to learn as much as possible because you go from football to basketball to baseball in
Mhm.
Louisiana. That's a lot of stuff you have to. It's kind of like going to a new school for the first time, which I did that a lot in my life because of my dad's job. But yeah, follow me at Sasha Grant on Twitter. Make sure go out to check out CrescentCitySports.com to check out for my content on the LSU, the Saints, high school sports. But then also just they have a lot of stuff on that site. Ken Train has done a great job covering sports, not only in the New Orleans area, but the state of Louisiana for over 40 years. A lot of great content there. Also, make sure to check out TigerBait.com for all your latest LSU sports, LSU football specifically, and LSU football recruiting. I'm a contributing writer for the recruiting part of the website, so make sure to check out the website, and also make sure to subscribe to them as well. It's not that much. A lot of great content. Of course, we all know Mike Scarborough. Mike is a colleague of ours, and I work for him, and he's always done a great job covering recruiting at LSU. And then also, I'm gonna have some more stuff coming out. Like I have a huge announcement to make, but I got to go through a certain. We got to go through the onboarding process. Once we get that uh once I go through that, then I'll release it just because it literally just happened, just went bang 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 bang. But I'm really
Mhm.
excited about this new opportunity, and it's something similar to this. But I'm gonna wait a little bit until we get to that process, and then Thursday, Friday, you'll probably hear something from me on it'll probably be on Twitter. But you
Okay.
can also Instagram, Facebook, whatever. But my main presence is Twitter.
Yeah, and once again, for everybody, make sure to give Grant a follow if you haven't done so. At Sachere Grant is where you can follow Grant. So, keep up with him. Grant,
And
always.
also want to say this one thing because I forgot.
Yeah, sure.
Also, make sure to like, not to like, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Gridiron Football. Subscribe to Gridiron Football's YouTube page. Just because Jason had mentioned that, probably should have, but I'm gonna say face because
I was going to. I was going into it.
I don't think he was, but I want to say that real quick. And on top of that, make sure to subscribe to Root Group Sports Media. I'll get that going again. I've just been super busy. Of course, we got we got spring football coming up, but then also we got high school sports and Friday nights in the Bayou. We might start that up again. Maybe not
Yeah,
as much.
we have
Maybe
kick the
not
return
weekly.
for that.
Well, maybe not as weekly, but make sure to stay tuned for that. I'll let you guys know. And Jace, we'll do the same thing. I can't wait for football season to start up again. And know it's only March. We're talking about spring football, so that's how thirsty we are for football.
Yeah.
But once again, Jace, thanks for having me on, and you can take it away from here.
Absolutely, Grant. I appreciate you, man. Make sure to follow Grant, Saturday Grant. Keep up with him and all the great work that he does. He's doing an awesome job, and yeah, I'm really proud of him as well. So yeah, for Grant, I'm Jay. So make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You can find us at Gridiron Football. Make sure to go to our website as well, gridironfootballusa.com. We have a lot of LSU coverage. We're about to have our coverage from for our previous camp that we had at the 318 in Evangel Christian. So we'll have that on our website, gridironfootballusa.com. You can find a lot of the competition videos, the tire pulls, the 7-on-7s, all those on our YouTube channel as well on this show. And we'll have another show coming up just talking about the previous camps and what we got coming up for Gridiron Football. So Chase with Jace is going to be every Wednesday. That will have the Chase with Jace on YouTube, and then we'll also post the show on Facebook later that week as well. So that way our fans get to keep up with that. And then yeah, just make sure to follow for all of our high school football coverage. Got a lot of write-ups on players coming up. So make sure to check us out at gridironfootballusa.com. Grant Chachere, I'm Jace Lejeune. We'll see y'all next time on The Chase with Jace.